But first, I would like to know what are the biggest challenges regarding First Nations in smart cities?
When you ask the question around why me, there's also in regards to me to remain humble and be open in my own spirit in regards to the different cultural nuances, processes, protocols that are followed through and ensuring that we respect that and have that being able to be imparted both within the whole of the macro level of the Smart Cities Council, but also be able to create those connections and those frameworks for local jurisdictional relationships to be developed within the Smart Cities Councils organizations in each of the countries is going to be extremely crucial.
Welcome to the Smart Cities Council podcast and its special series with our global thought leaders. Smart Cities Council's Global Thought Leadership Team is an exclusive group of subject matter experts driving policy and standards, setting industry trends, conducting research, and building and sharing knowledge to advance our mission. My name is Fanny Melles. I am the Global Thought Leader for Youth Engagement at the Smart Cities Council, and today I welcome Murray Saylor to the podcast, who is the Global Thought Leader for First Nations. Murray Saylor is a proud Someset man from Arup, Darnley Island, in the eastern islands of the Torres Straits. He has more than 20 years diverse experience in the fields of business, government, defense, Indigenous affairs, and the resource sector with a focus on First Nations cultural, ecological, and economic sustainability. Murray is the founder and managing director of Tagai Management Consultants, a company driven to work respectfully with clients in the Australian and Asia-Pacific region to deliver market-leading procurement and supply chain management, as well as business advisory and stakeholder engagement services. Currently, Murray is on the board of the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies and the Queensland Performing Arts Centre Trust, and recently was appointed as the Smart Cities Council Global Thought Leader for First Nations. Murray, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Fanny. And before we start, I just want to pay acknowledgement to all traditional owners and First Nation people and Indigenous people that are dialing in, and also from the lands that you are dialing in from. Pay respects, deep respects to their elders, their ancestors, their continued existence and communication to their country, and also to their young individuals and warriors that are coming through that they continue to enlighten in regards to culture and also their sustainability of the country.
Thank you very much for this acknowledgement. We will have a few interesting questions, and I usually say that let's start with an easy question, asking how the specific field is connected to smart cities. I'm not saying that this is a hard question, but I assume it's not an easy question for you to answer. What does First Nation means to smart cities?
The whole vision around Smart Cities Council and the ecosystem that is wonderful, it's incredible, is around dedicating to building for the sector the capability, the capacity and collaboration amongst everyone that is part of the family, the communities and jurisdictions that we do actually impart. But I draw back on the vision, and the vision in regards to which I've pulled off the website is to create safer, more beautiful, enabled, equitable, resilient and sustainable world for everyone. It would only make sense in regards to that the original inhabitants of the countries that we live in and the countries that we live on from cradle to the grave, those Indigenous peoples and First Nation peoples, it only makes sense in regards to that vision and what the Smart Cities Council and the ecosystem is driven towards should be one. It should be a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer in regards to why they should be part of it, in regards to all the activities, both as a reciprocation of enablement, of collaboration, of learning and connection for one, for that are not Indigenous and also for Indigenous brothers and sisters from around the world.
Okay, so the connection is a no-brainer, and for the Smart Cities Council, it's easy to understand the connection because Smart Cities Council wants to create a more safer, more sustainable, more beautiful, more equitable places for everyone. Now, a more general question, what does smart city mean to the Indigenous and Aboriginal community?
Basically, the ecosystem, what it provides in the community is integral, I believe, in regards to the continuing existence and sustainability of the cultures and the societies against the backdrop of the cities that they do inhabit and the communities that they inhabit in countries. There's a number of areas. There's so many I wouldn't be able to list it. But some of the areas that I've been able to identify in relation to social and cultural heritage, economic development and empowerment, sustainability of First Nations peoples as mentors, as investors, teachers, partners, students, and eventually family. We have a continuing relationship in regards to all sectors of our communities, in regards to in the work that we're doing within the Smart Cities Council, which is what it's driven toward around creating that resilient communities in regards to working hand in hand. And that's what the Smart Cities Council means to First Nation people. They're both, it's an educational piece, it's a collaboration piece, but the most important is around connection and innovation. It's incredible.
Okay, we will go through these terms you just threw out in your answer first. And I'm really curious, how can you explain this because of your background? What does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability means to me as a First Nation brother, and it's the person who's out here trying to do good and just provide social and commercial impact for everyone that we engage with. What it means in regards to me is so many. It starts with my DNA. It starts and ends with my DNA and starts with my continuing connection to my culture, my people, number one, but also in regards to being able to impart and share this wonderful knowledge and this wonderful spirit of cultural integrity and what it means in regards to sustainability, that it's around circular economy thinking. That is, every part is creating a part for the person that is feeding into that ecosystem. It's not just ecological, it's not just environmental, it's not just social. It's not around the three. Normally we look at obviously the bottom line from a 3 point perspective, but is also a quadruple bottom line value. The fourth element around that is around culture and social inclusion. That's what sustainability means to me.
Is sustainability connected to circular economies?
110%. It's one and the same. You have one part in regards to looking at individual element, key focus, right? One of the examples that we see in various jurisdictions and around in various organizations is around this big push around sustainability is environment sustainability, Fanny. My question is to you as part of this conversation. Is it more than that? And around circular economy thinking is around how do we have a continuing relationship with land, sea, country, air, the universe, and in regards to us providing procurement, around us working with government, us employing in regards to the innovation, both social or technologically, all those particular elements. If we're not actually creating a circular economy, we're creating a heap of waste. Our footprint, our carbon footprint increases, but also in regards to we start to get more disconnected as we are in society at the moment. If we aren't embracing the holistic nature of what sustainability is and circular economic thinking is part of that.
Interesting. So when you are talking about circular economy, it's not just about the consumerism
Mm.
and objects. It's also about the connection between individuals and the connection between individuals and
Mhm.
nature.
Exactly right.
Okay, that's a new approach. I haven't heard circular economy in the social
Mm.
aspect. Thank you so much for bringing
Thank you.
that up.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind words. What I'm sharing in regards to is the consumerism and the materialism stuff has created the heap of waste for many generations. It's impacted First Nation countries and jurisdictions from so many levels. And this new thinking around the sustainable development goals, around the ESGs, around the AI, the ML, all the technology stuff that we see within the ecosystem in regards to around the social inclusion elements, around what it actually means only adds value in regards to what it means around the human side, the human centric side, and what culture means and what First Nation people can bring. So, back to your question around what it means to the Smart Cities Council, in a way, it actually continues to humanize it and keep it grounded in regards to what's the important to country and First Nation inclusion around what we're doing as a Smart Cities Council family.
It's really reassuring that we can include the human element, because we are also talking about how technology should be used for the sake of solving
Mm,
problems and for the sake of the human
mm.
experience instead of just new and shiny. Let's use that. So I appreciate your sentiment. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. The other question I had is resilience. What does resilience mean to you, and how does it connect to sustainability?
Yeah, sustainability and resilience obviously hand in hand. You can't create, even from a circular economy or from the levels of sustainability that each of our professionals and partners and the community that we work in have a look at sustainability without the resilience of being able to have the supporters, the partners, the frameworks, the technology be able to create that from a consumerism, just using your word. There is not partnered with the human factor and the human centric and also culture and the importance of the ecology and the social impacts. It actually adds they're all elements of what resilience is. It's creating strength within systems, within processes, within the way of thinking. that is not just around process driven and machine learning, but also in regards to what the human element regards to resilience in your own spirit, because we all experience challenges. We all experience challenges within our spirit. We all experience challenges physically and mentally. It's not just about the external factors. It's also really important around the internal factors in regards to how we actually look at resilience as well.
Sometimes I hear sustainability described as nature focused or environmental focused, while resilience as human focused. Do you fear that there is this opposition or misalignment between the two fields?
And it's a double-edged sword, right? It's a swinging door in the sense of if Mother Nature was resilient, then it'd be able to stand what we've done to it. If our human nature and our societies, including our First Nation people, if they were resilient, if they were truly resilient in regards to it, they would have been able to, in some instances, not become extinct, that the languages would be strong, would be throwing their existence within their own jurisdictions around their governments and the systems of control and influence would be really strong. My point is that resilience relies on relationship. It relies on one informing the other to continually evolve. Resilient is not just a static piece of thought process or paradigm. It is a moving beast because nature and technology and how we actually coexist with each other and the human nature element also changes. So resilience is an evolving piece, probably my point of view in regards to what you've shared, Fanny, and what you've asked.
Compared to sustainability, which is static?
Our environment sustainability aspects are continuing to evolve, even the schools of thoughts around it, aren't they?
Okay, thank you so much for entertaining my questions because these are really hard. And I know that it's usually we don't really differentiate between sustainability and resilience or don't understand what could be the differences. And your description gives us something to hold on to while we are trying to understand it for ourselves. And my last question as a term would be, what does innovation mean to you?
Innovation is both from a physical, material perspective and also from, as you could probably appreciate, from a First Nations perspective and Indigenous peoples. And also not just the Indigenous peoples, but just the diversity sectors that are out there in our wonderful global village is also in regards to the human factor of it. You know what I mean? It's really important to ensure that we're grounded in innovation around social innovation as equally as we are in regards to consumerism around material and machines. And as one works on the other, one adds value to the other, but one can't live without the other either. You need the human, you need the social aspect to help do the coding, do the inventing, all that piece. But if we haven't got the emotionally intelligent to innovate and understand that it's also important to hear the country, hear the land, hear the sea, hear the knowledge keepers that have been there for many years, then innovation in a way is just for innovation's sake. It doesn't innovate. It innovates in regards to against the technology, but it's also important to make sure that you're paying respects to where it's possible, but where it's applicable, obviously, the inclusion of First Nation or Indigenous thought in regards to their practice. Because why? Been around for many generations, many thousands of years, and they've had a continuing relationship to country. Doing planning, the gigacities thinking in regards to ICT, those things are actual around innovation. The application of both also enhances both in regards to sustainability for that community, but also to the peoples that actually coexist with it.
And thus comes my next question. What does technology mean to you?
Once again, probably the same type of thing. Obviously, technology is the advancement in regards to the human factor through physical and human-centric innovation to progress our society as a whole and hopefully create more equity, make things easier, make more things more efficient, but more importantly, ensure that it actually makes sense to life, all life, flora, fauna. I think sometimes the technology innovations that we do actually have also fall short in regards to that. Yeah, the technology also can potentially impact First Nation people, but also flora and fauna that it's trying to impact.
This will be, I think, a bit obvious question because the usual question is, what has been your journey towards this specific area? But since you are a First Nation people, you are a First Nation member, it's much more about why did you choose this journey towards coming into Smart Cities Council and becoming the First Nation lead for
Great question.
global thought
Yeah,
leadership?
great question. And I think it's very appropriate in the context of our conversation. The importance in regards to of what the Smart Cities Councils, as I shared back to the vision statement, is really key here around equitable creating enabling elements. But for everyone, I'm First Nation people, part of that ecosystem as well. Yeah, they are. And the value that the ecosystem, as you shared in your previous questions, Fanny, and the value that it creates around what the Smart City Councils mean to First Nation people can be summed up in regards to the education and training elements, the accelerator programs, the ideas that are being created within the ecosystem to be able to bring that together and call it collective for a local jurisdiction First Nation people, and having them being part of that local jurisdiction, where it be in Aotearoa, where it be in Poland, where it be in Turkey, and all the other 50, I think it's approximately 50 jurisdictions that the Smart City Council has partnership in. Those are really important. The other elements that are really key in regards to why I've joined this piece is literally just to go, there's a conversation that needs to happen. We need to have the conversation, and we need to have active action, global action in regards to ensuring that our First Nation community and all its elements can draw upon the Smart Cities Council's ecosystem and families to create those regional communities and impact-driven projects, to use the application of technology to make sense for them. But it has to be balanced in regards to double-edged sword, and the challenges are that it's also about making sense. What does data sovereignty mean to First Nation people when all the information is so open source and everyone's utilizing it? When some of that knowledge that is shared from men's and women's business in First Nation communities cannot be shared with the wider world because sacred knowledge. These are things in regards to that. It's not just about enabling the piece, it's also about infusing this supply Smart Cities Council's ecosystem with First Nation thought and innovation for the betterment of everyone, for the create more resilience, but more importantly, to create a better future for our kids.
This will be a provoking question. Why you?
I suppose in regards to and once again, it's a hard question for a very humble brother to be asking, but in regards to, I believe that I know, I can say with a lot of confidence that I know that my spirit, my cultural integrity in regards to who I am as an individual and what I've driven as a business, as a social entrepreneur, and someone who's been out in this sector and has had opportunities to work not just in Australasia or the Asia Pacific region, but has connected with various brothers and sisters around the world, whether they be First Nation or otherwise. It gives me an insight and I believe a spirit to allow for the inclusion and be able to be open and be able to structure some of the conversation to at least facilitate the conversation. I'm not the spokesperson for First Nation people, Fanny. I'm just a piece in regards to that. I've had a yarn with the Smart Cities Council and given me a window and given me a doorway to allow other brothers and sisters to come through this door and experience this wonderful ecosystem that is the Smart Cities Council.
And that's why I'm asking, because I appreciate how challenging can be to be the first and say that, yes, I want this. Yes, I help it. It's an innovation, and innovation is never easy.
I love it. It's great. It's really, really great. And it needs to be asked because I know a lot of, as you and I know, Fanny, when you put a title on someone, I don't want people to get caught up in the title. The title means nothing in regards to what it is, that it's a position that has been created that creates an opportunity, that knows that the Smart Cities Council family is considering First Nation elements within the practice across all elements and what it actually will be doing. And as you shared, innovation is not an easy thing, but someone's going to take a first step towards it. And I'm just grateful, extremely grateful and humbled for brother Corey and everyone from the Smart Cities Council to allow me to come on this journey with everyone, but also to create a pathway for other brothers and sisters. I'm only the first step. I'll put some marks in the footprints in the sand, in the beach, in the country. But in regards to it, I can't wait for the other brothers and sisters to really formulate and really use this opportunity for themselves in regards to the relationships that they'll be able to create in this awesome ecosystem that is the Smart Cities Council.
Which is just very hopeful. And we will get back to the opportunities. But first, I would like to know, what are the biggest challenges regarding First Nations in smart cities?
Yeah, I think probably one of the pieces is going to be around getting an understanding of the collective, what's happening out there at the moment, and also the initial developing of the initial framework that will start to make sure that everyone's on the journey. So that work is really important. Also, in regards to the biggest piece is that, as I shared within when you asked the question around why me, there's also in regards to me to remain humble and be open in my own spirit in regards to the different cultural nuances, processes, protocols that are followed through, and ensuring that we respect that and have that being able to be imparted both within the whole of the macro level of the Smart Cities Council, but also be able to create those connections and those frameworks for local jurisdictional relationships to be developed within the Smart Cities Council's organizations in each of the countries is going to be extremely crucial, because it's about realistically creating the relationships on the ground in the jurisdictions, and this being almost like a conductor in regards to being able to make sure that it's tuned right and that everyone is getting value from it. But most importantly, in regards to that it does align with what the vision of the Smart City Council continues to be.
And it's amazing how optimistic you are because you are immediately jumping to the opportunities. So, what are the biggest opportunities regarding the future of cities? No, sorry. What are the opportunities regarding First Nations in smart cities?
Most definitely in regards to is all the elements that you and I know, and also the family that in the audience that are listening to. And it is around education training. It is around inclusive activities, which is Smart Cities DNA in regards to what we try and do. It is around informing and having meaningful conversation around effective policies and strategies, ensuring that people are educated around what is all those elements that we've shared in our conversation today, and what does that actually mean, and do you actually understand that you can have these tools and to be a connector around as First Nation people is around being able to provide exposure respectfully to potential opportunities of collaboration and innovation and opportunity out in the wider world is really, and once again, I premise that with the fact of it's only if they want to. We shouldn't force technology, innovation, resilience, all these terms. Some of our First Nation people around the world, their languages, don't have certain words for a lot of these English terms. It's also about the growth and evolution of Smart Cities Council within those local jurisdictions and globally, how it can also infuse and evolve and innovate what Smart Cities Council does as well. It's exciting. It's so incredible.
And this excitement really radiates from you, which is just so cool. Now, I have been involved in some projects where community engagement were very much pushed from the top, but it was done more of in a tokenistic version. How could we make sure that the inclusion of First Nation people are not tokenistic?
Yeah, I think really great point. And I think it leads into a lot of various elements of our conversation today. And I think it's also about when you're talking about some of the challenges is, and it's also an opportunity, is there has been a lot of tokenism, right? There's been so much tokenism in regards to community engagement practice, innovation, all those ticker box type exercises when we talk about this whole universe that is where Smart Cities Council operates. And in regards to that whole element and what you're sharing is really key in regards to what are the key elements, and I'll give you three. The importance of Indigenous-led engagement and early engagement is extremely key in regards to embracing co-design, and that's another, so three of them, right? One is ensuring early engagement, appropriate engagement in regards to the culture or community that you're engaging with, actively listening, but also making sure that you humble yourself to the community that you're engaging with, to allow them to have the voice, to allow them to have the thought in regards to what they're sharing, and then ensuring in the final piece when you're collecting the data and you're creating your reports and you're informing elements is ensuring that you're paying deep respect in regards to the knowledge and the information that has been shared and making sure that information and whatever you're collecting from that community is respected and provided back to them because they need that information as well. And that it's always about relationship. It is not a transaction. It is a relational element on how we actually engage with communities. If you go in with the transactional mindset, you'll lose value in regards to the networking, the relationships that you actually create, but also the value that you could be creating to that community as well.
I should have prefaced this that I experienced it not in Smart Cities Council, but previously, years ago. Obviously, not Cities Council. Thank you very much for the three key aspects to pay attention to while engaging with First Nations. And my last question regarding this kind of engagement is, would First Nations people, do they want to engage with not First Nations people? Do they want to share their knowledge? Do they want to share their wisdom with outsiders?
I think it's a yes and a no answer. I have to say that. I have to premise it that I'm only talking from my perspective, but in regards to this, as I shared earlier, in regards to the idea of data sovereignty and protection of First Nation knowledge for First Nation people, I would say yes. Generally, I would say yes, because we're interacting for many generations with society anyway. So it's not like there's First Nation people out in the boonies. We've got brothers and sisters that are actually within society today. But I would premise it in regards to the type of knowledge that is being asked to be imparted. If it's cultural knowledge that is true to that tribe, to that clan, to those people, it's about them being able to inform and be allowed to say no, I think is really key. In regards to on the other side, though, there's so many examples of brothers and sisters and First Nation and Indigenous people around the world giving because they want to embrace society. They want society and non-Indigenous brothers and sisters that are not connected to community to understand who they are. Because if they don't do that, then how do they actually continue the relationship and decrease the elements of unconscious bias and racism and prejudice that exists? If we're not being open to some type of level in regards to our spirit, most of our First Nation people, and there's many that are out there that are still disconnected from society because they choose to. And we have to allow them to be able to do that.
And thus comes my next question. What would you recommend for someone who wants to learn more about the Indigenous culture or the First Nation people? What could they do to learn more about this field?
Dr. Google, Dr. Web, in regards to so much information out there. And I would start small. I would start small with family who haven't, and brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers in regards to our children are really wonderful windows to the world. Understand the community around you. Understand its history, like its colonial history, its First Nation history. And if you can't find it easily, be curious. Be curious in regards to for the world around you. Don't be so closed in regards to this wonderful universe. Understand the flora and fauna. What's the traditional name of the plants that are around you? Is there a traditional name for the town or the community that you're actually in? And if it has the First Nation name, for example, regardless of where you are in a global village, then what does it actually mean? Who are the people that are of your country? That information is everywhere in your local councils, in your libraries, all those pieces. It's just about having a curious spirit and honestly being open to it because there's two elements to it. There's a truth-telling element because the elements of colonialism destroyed many cultures, many First Nation communities, and a lot of that knowledge got lost. But a lot of it's been placed in museums and all that piece. But it's also having real conversation and being open to real conversation with First Nation people that are around you. Have a conversation with them. Ask them, come over for a barbecue. Go and participate in their festivals. Only through that will you actually open in your own spirit, will you be able to innovate your own mind, your own psychology.
Murray, you have been very generous with your time and answers. So, as a last question, do you have any closing comments or requests for the audience?
Probably a call to action back to what you've just asked me, Fanny, around. It's about really understanding that the lands and cultures that we're on, many of our global villages and countries had First Nation people that are there. There's some people that are our First Nation people that are in the background. I'd just like to invite anyone who's listening today is around being open, ask a question. Approach the Smart Cities Council. If you've got any questions or any ideas in regards to, I've only just started with the Smart Cities Council and around this pillar around the First Nation piece. And then the other piece I would share is be open, ask questions. The other piece in regards to is that we all don't have the answers, right? And I'm real around that. I'm not going to be talking for anyone else's culture. All I'm just trying to do is facilitate that. And if we can just keep that in mind and have an open mind around what we're doing around the Smart Cities Council, open door policy, send us an email, let's talk, let's generate conversation, but more importantly, let's create action.
Thank you so much, Murray.
Thanks, Fanny. Just want to finish as we start and pay respects to all First Nation people, our Indigenous brothers and sisters, pay respects to their ancestors, their elders, their communities and organizations. I want to extend that respect to all brothers and sisters that are listening in today, to your families, to your communities, to your children. And I humbly and gratefully thank you for this time, Fanny.
Thank you so much, Murray. If you want to learn more about Murray, links will be provided in the show notes, and the Smart Cities Council website can inform you even more. What have you learned from this interview? What questions do you have after listening to Murray? What would you like to know more about? Let us know on the Smart Cities Council website or on LinkedIn. Look out for other episodes with the global thought leaders or topical discussions, and thanks for tuning in.